Space, the final frontier. Let's see what's out there. Engage.
Hello and good evening, and let's kick this off for Tuesday, May 28th, 2024. Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 1 and 2, titled Encounter at Farpoint. It's over, and it has been since 1987, but we're just getting started here on Live Long a Podcast for our review. I don't even know how many years later we are, maybe 40, almost 40 years later. Here we are, and we're yet for another rewatch review series here on Live Long a Podcast. We got a great panel once again here on the network to break it all down. We have the guy who can dock a ship manually. It's Kevin Millard.
That I wish you knew how funny that was. Ashley and I always joke about docking.
Well, not that I didn't quite mean that kind of docking, but yes. And here's the guy who's just trying to help a pitiful species. It's Adam Woodward.
Hey guys. I'm absolutely thrilled to be doing this with you guys tonight. This is a big one for us, next gen. So
Star Trek: The Next Generation, and happy belated birthday. I know it was your birthday last night.
Oh yes, happy birthday.
And you were on with Davin and Murphy to all hours of the night talking about movies. So
I told them I had a hard stop. I had to 10:15 was it last night for me, but
right.
It was good. It was a really good episode. I thought we had to talk about. We had some good movies to talk about.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, we're starting our mission here to watch every episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation. We just finished up Deep Space Nine a week ago or so. We've done Enterprise. We've done original series. We've been doing shows like Discovery and Strange New Worlds and Lower Decks. But, this is one of the great shows of Star Trek, maybe the best Star Trek series of them all. We're going to find out as we're going to go through each episode. We're going to talk about them. We're going to rate them. It's probably going to take us about 3.5 to 4 years, like it did on Deep Space Nine. Same episode count. And our focus tonight is Encounter at Farpoint. But we're going to be going through all the episodes. We're going to be bringing in different Live Long and podcasters for different episodes to talk about it. Tonight, we have Kevin and Adam with us. We're supposed to be Jody. I don't know where he is. And he's probably, I thought Davin was going instead of me. But then, I don't know. Read the chat, Jody. Where are you? Anyway,
hey, I was here at 8:00. I assumed it was at 8.
Yeah. Well, better to be early. No, because I think we will typically be at 8, but if schedule demands it, we'll go at 9. And we'll be on Tuesdays as we're going to be having our Orville podcast on Monday nights. And it was going to start last night, but mentioning Adam's birthday and his other podcast commitments, we decided to hold off the Orville for a week.
Too busy, Dave.
You're a man in high demand, just much like these Bandy in this Encounter at Farpoint episode. And yeah, we're bringing it all down. Of course, we have the live streamers here with us, like live commenters like Norman, Picard. Better a Q than no kids. Oh, yeah, there you go. Troy promises there will be pain and suffering. True. Of course, we had World Mind here. He'll be on different episodes, but he's in the comments tonight. Let's go. Thank you, Chris. And 30. Thank you. 30. Oh, it's 37th. I'm 30. We're 37. Kevin Smith references ahoy, I suppose. So spoilers, if you haven't seen Star Trek: The Next Generation, it's been 37 years, but if somehow you haven't seen it yet, you don't want to know what happens, then you don't want to listen to us, because we're going to say everything. We're going to tell you everything that happens in this episode, maybe even other episodes that aren't this one. So we feel like the statute of limitations on the spoilers are complete, but we put that out there. Scant uniforms for life. Well, we're going to be talking about that too. So I don't know. Where do we want to start with this? I guess, like we normally do for every episode review, I kind of like just get in just a general sort of high level executive summary. What do we think about Encounter at Farpoint? Let's go to Kevin first.
I love it. It's good for a. You got to remember when you watch this that it is 1987, and I like it. It's a little cheesy, a little kind of rah rah da 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 da, but it's good. It's a good story. It's interesting anyway. Introduces Q, which is awesome. Great performance from Q.
Yeah,
as usual.
And Adam, where are you on with Encounter at Farpoint?
So I rewatched it myself on Sunday. I mean, I've definitely watched it over the years, but for me, I remember I was in high school. I remember watching this like live the night it aired, and at that time, I don't remember loving it to start. I wasn't that excited about it, but man, I'm telling you, after 7 years and how really great it became from here. And yes, the skirts and the scant uniforms and whatnot, but it was really amazing to see it. Like, first of all, what an important show it was for you, for me, for all Star Trek people, because I just think it was pinnacle at the time, and it brought us back to what, movies were great, but not a weekly show that was fantastic, but also how far they evolved in that 7-year period into the movies.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. I think so I'm the youngest of this group here. I was only 4 years old when this show debuted. But I do remember it. I do remember watching it with my parents because they were big fans of the original show. And, they were like, oh, we got to tune in for this. My dad was excited. He never watched the show really after this. So I guess, maybe the episode did stick with him. But I think my mom did for sure. And I remember at the time, I'm only 4. I think I've told you guys this on other podcasts, but I was like, well, I don't understand the next generation. I thought it would be like Kirk's son and Spock's son and etc. It would be just like Clue Jr. or something along those lines, because as a 4-year-old, I wasn't quite getting that. But I ended up falling in love with the show more when it became in reruns and syndication and things like that. And, certainly the later seasons, because the show ends when I'm about 11, and by that point it was a juggernaut, right? But before that, I also have other memories of like watching Entertainment Tonight with John Tesh, Mary Hart, and they always would promote Star Trek: The Next Generation on that show. Like, they would have interviews, like John Tesh would play a Klingon in an episode. And so I definitely was following those early seasons, but I wouldn't say I was super into them yet. I hadn't really.
Do you guys remember when it was on City TV? Like, I think it's 7 and 8 o'clock, like 2 episodes back to back, like, in the 90s as well. So the early 90s. Yeah.
Well, so when I was in Montreal, it was on, in Vermont, it would come out of like the Burlington, Vermont affiliate for ABC. They were the ones who had the rights for it because this was first run syndication. So it could be almost any station in the States that could be carrying the episodes at the time. And it was great just to have that on so many channels. It was like what actually maybe made the show even more successful was that it wasn't like an NBC show or an ABC show or something like that. It was whoever wanted to run it. It was kind of a show that belonged to everybody in a sense. And it's really something. But Adam, I want to go back to, I guess, you being there, you're watching this, did you, after you watched this back in 1987, were you like, I got to tune in next week?
Of course.
You were,
because there wasn't, TV wasn't that great back then. And, look, it was a curiosity factor. Yes, I want to see what happens next, because it was a very cool episode. Even still, it's pretty, when you stray away some of the cheesiness to it today, but it's still a great episode. Like, the whole idea of it, the nice surprise with DeForest Kelley coming into it. There was some. It was enough to keep me engaged, and then it got better.
Sure. And Kevin, I guess the same kind of question for you. Like, how do you feel about the show now versus, I guess, on the first time you saw it all those years ago?
It's hard to remember like how I felt about the early episodes. Even like, I mean, I was 9. I remember watching them, but I don't have like a really granular knowledge. But this show has just been something I've watched continuously since then. Like it's not like, oh, I'm rewatching this and I have different feelings about it. I've been watching this for 37 years.
Right. It's hard to remember the first time. I guess, were you like a fan of Star Trek before
Yes.
this premiered? You were. So it
Yes.
was on your radar. You knew what it was. Okay.
Yeah, I liked the original series because that's all there was, and I saw Star Trek 4 in the theater.
Norman saying became a regular viewer season 4, Future Imperfect. So some people latched onto this later or saw an episode they liked or something like that, you know. And I think my feeling was about these early seasons, you know, when I was younger, was like, these suck. It doesn't get good until they get rid of these crappy uniforms in season 3 and they go to a Mandarin collar 2-piece uniform. It's all about the uniforms, you know, but not really. And my thoughts about what rewatching this were sort of, it's pretty good. You know, I think that the cast in particular really nails this home. I think that there's so much there in like this original episode. Obviously the set, like, you know, the ship itself, how it looks like, you know, a lot of it gets like credited to Gene Roddenberry, but there was a whole team. I think in particular, this guy named David Gerald was like sort of like Roddenberry's sort of unsung ghost writer on a lot of this, helped write the show Bible and establishing so much about the show that carries through. You know, I think about the other Star Trek premieres that we've had since, like, you know, like, of course, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise, but like the more modern shows like Discovery, which we're finishing up this week, and you know, Strange New World maybe, and those kinds of shows. In Discovery in particular, like that show has really in 5 seasons changed its cast. You know, of course, like you got Sonequa Martin Green there and Doug Jones and a couple of the others, but mostly it's really shifted that show. And this show kind of stays the same, you know, like this premiere, Encounter at Farpoint, and then the finale, all good things, amazing bookends of this series.
And very few story arcs.
Yeah.
Right.
Like in terms of like Deep Space Nine would have, for instance, like with the longer sort of.
Yeah. These were very episodic, you know, maybe 2-3 episodes total, you know, we get into something. So.
Yeah. You know, and I think that's, you know, of course, yeah, some of this feels a little dated, I guess. You know, it's 1987, like, I don't know, it's the fabric, it's the lighting, it's the kind of that feel, but
the Enterprise looks like a Marriott hotel. Yeah,
it never really stops, but I love it. I can't help it. You know, it's a great ship. You know, the Picard mostly is Picard in this. You know, he's a bit more stiff. You know, I guess his arc is that by the end of the show he can play poker. You know, he can sit with his guys.
I actually really like that it showed him getting used to a new ship and how sort of out of sorts he was. That's how I take that anyway. Like, he's still Picard, but he's crusty because he's still trying to figure everything out, right?
He's still trying to figure everything out. Yeah. And I guess my other feeling on this is that it's such a weird introduction in some ways too. You know, it's like, I think about like Star Trek, the original series, and how they have like their 2 pilots that they made, but then like I think the first episode where no one has gone before, like, is that the Gary Mitchell one or is it the one right after Gary Mitchell? I think so. And that one, it's just like, it just kind of throws us in, like Kirk and Spock are playing 3D chess in the room, having a conversation. And in this one, it's like, okay, the Enterprise is here and here's Picard, but like the Riker's not here and Geordi's not here and Crusher, like most of the crew are somewhere else. And so you have like for the half of the episode, you have Picard, and, you know, and Data and Troy and Tasha Yar and O'Brien's there for part of it, but he's, I don't know, he kind of comes in and out. And he doesn't have a name yet. He's just called Khan for this first episode. And then they meet. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I think they had to come into this knowing that there was a bit of retelling of something. You know, you can't just, everybody has an expectation of Kirk and Spock and Dr. McCoy. And this is very different. And that was probably my biggest hang up at the beginning of this, was trying to get my head around that storytelling into this new cast. And they did it quickly, which was great. You got to know them very quickly.
You do, and you get I think a feel for who they are. I think Tasha Yar, like, she's not great for me in this pilot in particular.
No.
She's like,
But Dave, what I was trying to say is that when you think about Discovery and how many damn cast members there are and how many characters there are, like, I think you said it excellent. We have a core cast that stayed with us for 7 years, and you know them very well. You're not trying to figure out where everybody is. Like, where's Detmer this week, and
who's this guy, and who is this character? You get a real, like, even Wesley Crusher, and like they're all kind of established who these characters are, how they interconnect with each other. And like I'm not saying, well, that's not who that character was, or this isn't what they're like, this is who my character is, and this is why I'm playing it, and they evolve it, but they don't, I guess, revise it or rewrite it in a way that feels unnatural. Yeah, so I don't know where else. We can go through screenshots, of course, but there's a lot. This is a 2-hour episode, so there's a lot to break down. I don't know. Maybe we can remind ourselves what the hell happened in this. And I apologize. I ran out of time for the editing process, but just like what the first thing we ever see in this show is space. What this will become part of the title sequence. We see Earth, the sun. We kind of zoom out of the solar system, see Jupiter and Saturn, and then eventually we see the Enterprise coming along. We see this big new ship. It goes to warp, and then we get our title card, Star Trek: The Next Generation. This does feel very cinematic and like a made-for-TV movie. Not quite a movie, but it's it is what it is. We kind of see all these titles. We see the Enterprise flying by, kind of a longer version of our normal credits, getting all our name, and then the ship goes to warp. And this was like unlike anything they had done before on in the old Star Trek. We never saw a warp like this with the big white flash and the nacelles like powering up like that. I don't think even in the movies they were quite doing it that way.
And another thing, though, you just mentioned it here, but just even getting used not just to the crew, but to the Enterprise and how different that looked from the original Enterprise.
Yeah, and thanks for reminding me, Norman, because like this whole opening theme song is actually the score from Star Trek: The Motion Picture, or part of the score from Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which it works much better with this show than it did in that movie. In that movie, it feels so out of place. I'm like, the energy of this song doesn't feel like Star Trek: The Motion Picture at all. So anyway, then we get our title card. We get more credits, more names. And then I love this shot with the Enterprise coming from above here. It looks so great. We meet
Captain. I know how much Picard. You love the ship, Dave. I know. I
love the ship. I love the ship. You treat her right, and she'll always bring you home.
Oh, McCoy says that. Yeah, it will always bring you home, unless, of course, sometimes you get brought home by a Klingon ship with a bunch of whales. It doesn't always bring you home. They've destroyed it several times.
Well, but then you get a new one. So it's it will usually bring you home.
This was a neat shot too. This introduction to Picard.
The shot Picard, coming through the window. We get like sort of like this like half lit shot of him. We get to meet the captain under a captain's log. Intro says, I'm Captain Picard reporting, and we're going through engineering and the different sets here, and seeing he's examining this new ship, this Galaxy class ship, we're told. Just we happen to be on the shot here where it says, written by DC Fontana and Gene Roddenberry, which is definitely a big part of this episode, because apparently this went to like what do you call mediation in like the Writers Guild, and 2 writers were on this episode and everything else anyway. And that's why I think the whole thing, it feels like 2 episodes kind of smushed together. And that's kind of why I think everything to do with this has to do with that. Anyway, so we see Picard, he's going through his sets. He meets Data, and Data's, they have like a little bit of a banter here. And Data, is kind of going on about, kind of introducing that he's an android and that he can cite things specifically. And the stuff here with Data and Picard, even in this very first scene on the bridge, I'm like, this is kind of what their dynamic will be for the whole show and even beyond. They're like that. It's consistently Picard, it's consistently Data, and it's great. And it's like, I don't know how much they rehearsed this, but they really found the chemistry with this cast right away, and how to play their characters and how to play off each other. We get Troy sensing things. ambiguously.
I love that. That's our introduction to her. Is Captain.
Captain, I said something unspecific. This will be a recurring theme.
Well, what I didn't really enjoy about her character in this episode, particularly, is like she's consistently all the time worried, and she's got that look on her face right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know,
she emotes hard with her face.
Yeah.
So yeah, but she's kind of going through it. So basically she's sensing Q here, and we meet Q, I don't know, almost right away. He puts up this little net thing. You know, I think Troy warns Picard that we're not dealing with something simple here. This is quite advanced. And when does Q I think appears here in the next couple seconds? Yeah, he at first appears as sort of like a Napoleonic kind of figure or something.
Go back to whence came.
Yeah. Go back to your solar system. You're a savage race.
I feel like this is a nod to Trelane, how he's kind of got the century wrong.
Yeah. I guess so. Yeah, like they definitely just gave us Trelane again, but I love.
No, but how he set it up though is I come to you as a kindred captain. You know,
right.
You know,
but he's like dressed like a conquistador. Then he freezes this helmsman guy. I think his name is Lopez or something. Because he had a phaser, and Picard's like, it was on stun, man. You know, you didn't have to freeze him to death, or I guess he didn't die. So I know. So this is where it happens here. Just Q eventually shifts into this general character. You know, and I love how he changes his performance based on what character he's embodying. He's like, we need a few good men to fight the commies.
He's talking like Rod Serling, you know, from
Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone, yeah.
Twilight Zone, yeah.
Oh yeah, he's even got the smoke, you know. And Picard's like, we'd haven't worn that in hundreds of years. And, you know, and when I watch this back, I'm kind of like, well, you know, Q might have a point that not too long ago, you know, humanity was pretty barbaric, you know. But Picard's like, that's way in the past. Don't worry about it. Eventually, I think, yeah. So then Q shifts into like this other kind of a character, which is from this, you know, from the fictional post World War III universe where we learn to control soldiers with drugs, and we get the idea that these guys were, I don't know, on some kind of addictive thing.
But if you go back 2 shots there into his post World War II uniform, and look at the makeup, and then flip to the next one. Yeah, they just do this. So look at the big bags under his eyes, the red eyes, and his unshaven. It's fantastic. I love how they depict this soldier to be, and
the way he just kind of plays it all like, I'm hopped up on something. You know, I think Worf wants to clean up the bridge at one point. Apparently, Worf was added to this cast really last minute. You know, he wasn't even like they were doing press photos without Michael Dorn, you know, up until a week before. And then somehow they decided they wanted Worf, a Klingon character. He gets thrown into this, you know, it's and he becomes a major part of the show, but he was kind of an afterthought, you know, when they created this. You know, Tasha Yar was going to be the security chief. And Worf is kind of just like an extra guy. He's just sort of a rover, if you will. So anyway, this whole dynamic with Q and Picard playing out. These two really figured out how to play off each other right away. What else? And then he disappears. Oh, and so Q disappears, and so Picard's like, I got a plan. Let's fly the ship at warp and separate the saucer section. I don't understand why this is his plan to get away from Q. And Data's like, this doesn't make sense. Why don't you just separate the saucer section now? But
I have a question. Can the saucer section go at warp?
No.
On its own? No. Okay.
See, but it must I was trying to figure that out too. Is it must have been in the warp bubble still.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, how it caught up to the planet? I got the idea.
When it separated, they're at high 9.7 or something, right?
Right.
And it detached, and it was still going along with the drive section.
Yes. Well, isn't that just inertia?
I don't know how warp works, Dave. So
Okay, well, it's not real.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
This is not what?
go to engineering section here. They start flying away, and this is where they get this idea to they're being chased by Q.
Can we stop here, because this chair to me makes no sense. It never made any sense. It's too relaxed.
Too relaxed. It's
Look at them.
Look
Look
at Worf. He's almost asleep. He's so relaxed.
he's got a big panel to look at, guys. He needs to be back. He can't be too forward.
Oh my goodness! Like, I like everything else about the bridge. I just don't like these two chairs.
I'm okay with them. I'm okay with. I love this bridge. I love everything about it. This is one of the best.
Look at that. Look at them. They're lounging.
They're great. What are you talking about? Like, look at them. Look at them. So good. They're quite. I feel like they did modify how like lounge those chairs are later in the show.
I think they must have, because they didn't bother.
They look a little low, and like that white like sort of structure underneath the chair. I don't think is there later on either. So those do change over time. So they're being chased by Q, who's in sort of like this ball of energy form, and so this is where Picard gets the idea. Let's go away. He's like, Worf, you'll command the saucer section. He's like, what do you mean? I'm a Klingon. I can't abandon my captain. He's like, you're a Starfleet officer. Do your job. He's like, okay, sure. So and I think they're just trying to show us off like the ship was cool here. Like, look, we're going to the battle bridge. And
in that turbo lift there, we don't see that too often, if ever again.
Well, they really stopped doing the whole saucer separation thing, like after after Best of Both Worlds. I don't remember them doing it at one time after that.
They hardly ever do it, and I love that it's like this big, huge, epic moment in the first episode, and then they pretty much abandon this ability every other time they're in danger,
more or less. Yeah, like I don't know. I get that I think the drive section looks stupid on its own. It looks like a weird looking, like it looks like you've cut off the head of the ship.
And I think it would get tiring to watch if every time the ship was in danger they decided to separate it. It would make for a pretty boring show.
It also leaves the saucer section completely vulnerable, like I guess the idea was that, like, okay, well, we have all these civilians on board. We can detach from the saucer section, leave them sitting ducks, I guess, and then we'll go fight our fight in the battle bridge and the drive section. But I don't know. It feels like you should give both sections warp abilities. That would probably be my critique.
Well, and it also they didn't just abandon it in this show. They've abandoned that ability entirely,
more or less
any other show.
We saw it in like Voyager. They had that Prometheus ship that could like separate into three sections and then come back together, whatever. But
it's a neat concept, actually, because so first of all, we're introducing families. All right, this is new. So how do you keep them safe? You get them away from the battle itself, right? So it's a great idea, but both of you are right. It didn't make sense in reality or in Star Trek reality.
I think it's just not completely fully baked. It's like, well, okay, but okay, fine. But then the saucer section needs to be able to go at warp by itself. And two, I think the drive section needs to look cooler when it's separate. But the battle bridge itself is fine and all that kind of stuff as they're going through it. And
you missed the comment on the uniforms. We just missed when you're showing the guys evacuating.
Oh, sure.
Because
there it is, the famous scant. You know what? If you want to wear that, there's the boots. I'm not so sure about, but I guess it's the best you could do.
Definitely questioning the choice of boots.
Yeah,
that outfit is begging for some flip flops. Even at work. Look at it's carpeted. Like, just go barefoot.
At that point, it doesn't look as flattering on this guy's body as it does on a woman's body. But hey, it's equal opportunity, no gender biases, and all that sort of hierarchy. So yeah, like if the women officers can wear it, so can the men. Or the non-binary, for that matter. So anyway, they get to the battle bridge, Worf in command of the drive section, and then we get to see this. After they fire a few torpedoes, I forgot at the Q entity. Okay, and then we see the separation for the first time, which at warp, which Data says is stupid and completely dangerous and theoretically possible, but not.
Yeah,
and
seemed pretty easy.
It seemed pretty easy, but we're told it's hard. We're told this was unprecedented, but they kind of do it. We see, we get to see this kind of all play out. I don't know. This seems like it's just like meant to be a cool visual, I think, more than anything. We see Picard looking nervous that he's gonna die, and then we see that the drive section kind of keeps going, or the saucer section keeps going. The drive section kind of goes on its own way, and
that's the only part I like when it turns and goes the other way. I thought that looked pretty cool.
Yeah, but I'm like, where is it going? And like so, and the saucer section just sort of get like lobbed at the planet, and we'll sort of get there later. Is sort of what I'm getting the impression for. So they're going along. By the way, we see O'Brien. He comes in the scene. He's like called to be like the helmsman of the drive section. They don't bring in whoever was on the bridge. And obviously he'll be back a lot. Then Tashiar wants to fight, and I think Picard says, "You really want to fight this guy, the Q, after we've seen what he can do?" Oh yeah,
you have the sense that Captain Picard's like questioning is like, are you serious? Like, you can't. You're my officer. You're my security officer, and you're making judgment like this.
Yeah, like I would expect Worf to give this suggestion, but that's
he questions Worf enough too coming up. So.
Yeah, Worf gets a dose of this too.
Oh sure. Yeah. Okay, fine. Apparently, like Denise Crosby was going to be Troy, and Marina Sirtis was going to be Tashiar, and they switched them pretty late in the process too. Imagine what that would have been like. So they're being chased by Q. They're getting caught up here, and I think at some point they get flashed away, right, into the court. Yeah, right here. So they end up in the court, but O'Brien doesn't come, which I always thought was a little like everyone else in that battle bridge comes, but him.
You got to do it harder.
Right. And so we see like this is like a post-atomic thing. We're told it's the year 2079, which would be after the Zeppelin Cochrane flight in 2063. So clearly Earth didn't become a utopia right away. There was a little bit of some bad things going on here for a period afterwards. And then we get Q as revealed on his. Sorry, it might take me a while to get there. Yeah, as Q comes in revealed in his Q robes. Now we're told, I guess this is what judges wore in the 2079, but I feel like this has now become synonymous with Q himself and the Q continuum in general. Like that, this is the way the Q dress, but he's just kind of mimicking an Earth period here. It's a cool outfit because it's now from a fictional time period. Or a time period that hasn't come to pass. Data says, at least we're acquainted with the judge. I think Troy says, like, we got to be careful here. This is very real. It looks like an illusion, but it's
all real. Yeah.
This is all real. We see some of these like guards that, Q was pretending to be on the bridge, and Tashiar gets up and beats one up, and then the Q has him killed. Right? Not until he gets another bump off his drugs, though. Dispose of him, and then there's no blood. There's that one thing that stood out to me is like, well, if you shot him, wouldn't there be some blood?
1987 television.
1987, yeah, not even one drop. Anyway, so this is a great scene here where Q says, you're on trial for being a savage race, and this will come back over and over again as we'll go through the show. Picard trying to navigate this situation with his crew. Data trying to say, actually, in 2039, they ruled that people couldn't be held responsible for the crimes of their ancestors or forebears, which Q doesn't care about. He's like, no, we killed all the lawyers and we've abolished that United Earth nonsense by this point. So this is the troubles. Then Tashiar gets up. She's like, don't you say anything bad about these people. They helped me. Yeah. All right. This is
not bad.
It's bad. This is cringe, and so I don't know. She's like the weakest part, I think, of this pilot, in terms of the cast.
Yeah.
Not that Tashiar has some good moments later, before she eventually gets killed off.
Sure.
This season, but this is not the episode where she shines very much, I don't think. This guy knows it. Anyway, and then Q freezes her. like he did the other guy. I think Troy says, "You monster," or "you bastard," or something. She says, but he's bored by the whole thing, and so I don't know. Every time there we have these scenes with Q and Picard. It's great. These weird guys in the audience.
I love the parasol. The parasol with just the frame.
Yeah. There's just so much like it's very imaginative. It's very well put together here. And visually interesting, like how they shoot it, how they play it. And I think a lot of this is Patrick Stewart, man, is always selling me. He's so completely convincing in all aspects here, in particular. So I don't want to, we can probably move on from this courtroom scene, but eventually I think, Picard talks him into this idea of, we may have been savage in the past, but, we're not now. Give me a chance to show you that humanity has evolved.
All right, Q makes him plead guilty.
Right.
Provisionally.
Yeah. Because if he says anything but guilty, then you shoot him, right? Or something like that. I think he says it.
But what's interesting here is this is the first really glimpse into what Q wants to do. Like he doesn't want this to be over so easily.
No, he wants them to put up a fight, but he doesn't want to make it easy either.
He wants a game here. He wants to be entertained, I think, a little bit, and he's getting it.
Yeah, you get the sense he's playing with his toys.
Absolutely. Soon to be made into toys, Star Trek action figures by Playmates. So that ends, and then they come back to the battle bridge, and then O'Brien's like, "What's up? We're going to Farpoint station. It's pretty cool, huh?" Like he
never even missed them, Dave. Never missed them.
Yeah. He had no idea. I guess there was no time passage for him. But they were just dealing with the Q guy moments ago, and now that's over. So I'm not really sure what O'Brien thinks happened over these even the last minute, but I guess it's cool now. So they get going, and then we go to Farpoint, where we get to finally meet Commander Riker, who's dealing with the Bandy guy. So Riker is introduced. Apparently he was cast because he reminded Gene Roddenberry of himself. With the there's something in that twinkle in your eye, Frakes. Like I guess that sort of, I think the way Gene Roddenberry saw himself as like sort of a ladies' man and sort of an adventurer and a charmer, and all those things.
So this is one thing again. Back I remember thinking this my first time watching this episode is why was this planet light years away from Earth have bananas and grapes or whatever else is in that thing. It was a little odd. Like that would have been, again, make it realistic to the planet, but anyhow, it was interesting.
And then all of a sudden,
no humans on this planet either that would even want those things.
Well, I'd say if multiple planets can have multiple humanoid species, certainly multiple planets can have multiple apples, and
but I mean, okay, anyway, you see my point. They're introducing a new show and
it could look like some alien fruit, but it makes sense for the story because
this makes sense. Like the apples appearing made sense
because it's coming from his mind. Like the Sindarian, like the entity that they've turned into this base is manifesting this stuff based on thought, I guess. So they you always, if you want to make a character look like a jerk, you just give him an apple to eat in the scene. Like when Kirk's eating the apple in Star Trek 2009, when he's beating the Kobayashi Maru, golden. Not a golden delicious though. Anyway, so and then we see the Bandy guy talking to like the room. He's like, "You can't be doing that. You can't be just making apples. You're going to cause a suspicion here, or we're going to have to punish you if you keep this up." "Oh yes, we'll have to punish you." And we're like, "What the hell is this about?" Don't worry, we'll get to it. Then we have this whole scene here where Riker meets Dr. Crusher and Wesley for the first time. And Dr. Crusher, I don't know, she's kind of standoffish with Riker, and like Wesley's like, "Don't worry, she doesn't like men she doesn't know," or something. She says, she's shopping. And we're told that she does know Captain Picard already. This kind of revealed in this scene. And we get more of like this idea of like, things are appearing like this fabric that, Crusher's buying or whatever, like things that weren't here before. And that there's this mystery sort of unfolding, but they don't quite know it. And then Jody shows up. We get our first introduction to Jody ever in the show, where he says, "Hey, Commander Riker," and we're told later on that Riker and Jody came from the same ship, the Hood, which dropped them off here, presumably, I guess. And so he was like, "Hey, you say Lieutenant Jody reporting for duty," because he's like, "I'm a commander now." I guess he was most recently a lieutenant commander. So he says, "Well, the Enterprise is here, Star Drive section only, and he wanted you to beam up right away." Oh, interesting. So that's
another thing with the scene with Dr. Crusher and Wesley was, she's pretty casual. She's not on duty yet. She's got her own agenda right now, and it's nothing to do with working.
Yeah, she like her introduction's a little bit cold, but it's obviously like I love Crusher as a character, but like I'd say that it's mostly sort of forgettable. You're like, okay, this is kind of a weird encounter, a weird scene to write, I guess. The scene with Jody kind of feels better, I guess, because they're supposed to know each other already. Anyway, so Riker beams up, and
but it's not like, I know Riker is like this. We learn about that in the Lower Decks episode, but it was a little much making him
report
do
formally.
That formally.
Yeah.
Well, I was like, "Oh, Riker, come on, you're being a douche."
Right. Well, he's new to this. So he beams up to the Star Drive section, meets Tasha Yar, who's like, "Hey, what's going on?" "Well, I'll let the captain explain it to you, sir." She won't tell him anything. And it's interesting when Riker does show up, like Picard almost like is not interested in him. He's like, doesn't look at him, doesn't really engage with him. And he's like, "Okay, well, Riker, watch the video. We met a Q. Go get the PowerPoint, please." So Riker's like, "Okay," and then he goes and watches the replay of everything to do with the Q here.
Don't you think you'd have some questions after this?
You'd think he would have at least one, but nope. He knows what the hell's going on, because nothing in the courtroom, like in the trial, would have been shown because that wasn't recorded. So he doesn't have any of that background,
right?
But he's like, interesting, weird. Anyway,
and he's like, "Is this a test? Should I ask questions or not?"
Yeah. So he goes to see Picard in the battle bridge ready room, which I'm pretty sure we never see this room again in the show after this one scene. It's kind of a cool looking room. And Picard, I don't know. Picard's like, again, not kind of standoffish with him. He says, "Well, we got some stuff going on here, but by the way, we have to, I think he gets the call. We're redocking with the saucer section. You're going to fly it manually, Riker. No automation. You're qualified, right?" He goes, "Yeah, I guess. Do it." And so that's the next scene, is Riker doing this, which we're told by Data.
He doesn't have to put up. If he doesn't have to put up sails or anything, he's using automation. The ship is automated, no matter what he's doing.
Yeah. I guess like the docking, we're told that this docking sequence, like the bringing back the drive section with the saucer section, is without automation could be dangerous. But what's the worst thing that's can happen? I guess you destroy the ship.
Well, it's kind of like when they take
you destroy the ship, and everyone does.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's
when they take the Enterprise at a space dock. Without I don't know, thrusting maneuvers, whatever. You basically, everybody seems to be a little nervous. Remember when Saavik took it out?
Yeah. Well, I get to get this idea that we're flying this big, huge monster of a spaceship, that's got a lot of mass to it, and I guess that's what they're trying to like get the point across here.
Yeah, you don't want to go in too quick.
Yeah, that this is a real living thing, and it's the ship. You
got
to
be
gentle
with the docking, right, Kevin?
That's right. That's right. Until you're not.
Right. But that this requires that skill. I do like that aspect of, especially in Star Trek: The Next Generation, is that that the officers are the best. They're the best at what they do. Riker, no exception. And they have to know their stuff. They need to know, I don't know, math and angles and piloting maneuvers and whatever. So then Riker does it. He's like, okay, yeah, -3 degrees. Okay, polar inertia. Cool, we're done. And then everyone's like, wow, this guy's the man. Look what he can do. So he made it look easy. Then we get this scene here with Picard and Riker in the observation lounge, off the bridge where, Picard's challenging Riker more. I heard you wouldn't let Captain DeSoto beam down on an away mission. What's that about? And we find out later in the show that this is why Picard selected Riker as his first officer in the first place. He's like, you think the captain's rank has no meaning? He's like, quite the opposite. I think he should be, the captain should be protected and kept out of harm's way. I'll go on the missions. I'll go on the away missions, and this whole dynamic is being set up here. I wish somebody would tell Captain Burnham this on Discovery, but no, it never happens, Adam. So they have this whole dynamic, and you see he's like, permission to speak candidly. And I love how Picard goes, always. It's one of my
but he still makes everyone ask.
Yeah, he makes them ask, but you can always do it. You can always ask. Anyway, and then after that's sort of over, Picard says, well, they gave me a ship full of children, and I don't want to look like an ass around the kids because I don't feel comfortable around kids. So your job is to make sure I look cool. And
that's it. That's your job.
That's it. That's mostly your job. Make sure I don't die. We've established that, which I like. Picard's all about that. He's like, me not being dead, I'm in favor. And you helping me with kids. That's your other thing you're going to do. Okay. Riker says, you got it. And then he shakes his hand and he's nice to him, and Riker's all pleased. Then we go to sick bay.
And then Riker fails immediately because he yells at Wesley. So
in front
Riker's
of Picard?
job.
Not so much. Anyway, so then... I get what you're saying. So Jody and Dr. Crusher in the sick bay in the next scene. I guess we get to see the sick bay for the first time, establishing that Jody's blind and he's got the visor and he's got this pain from it. I think maybe we take this for granted, but I guess this was kind of a cool idea, like as it was presented back then, like somebody who's visually impaired can see again and become a part of the crew, and and it's this whole other ability to see the EM spectrum that other people wouldn't have. So I don't know, works for me.
I like how they explained it. It was done well, and the fact that he could have surgery, but it's he wasn't ready to take that step yet, which is also kind of cool. So even though it causes him pain, he'd rather live with it.
Yeah, he won't even take a something for the migraines at all. He'll deal with the pain because it gives him more abilities in space, and he's not willing to give that up. Then Riker goes to the main bridge here for the first time. He meets Worf, and he goes, "Where's Data?" to Worf, and he goes, "Data's dealing with the Admiral. He's on a special assignment, dealing with an Admiral who won't use a transporter." And this is where McCoy shows up as DeForest Kelley. As Admiral, McCoy, as we're told, he's 137 years old by this point. He's like, wait, I'm supposed to be upset about not dying. I'm supposed to be troubled about not dying.
You're 137 years old. What makes you remember that, boy? And he looks at his ears.
He's so old, though. I almost feel like he's unrecognizable as McCoy.
I knew. We knew who it was right away. He's got the eyes.
Yeah.
Those eyes.
It's the eyes, yeah. Well, he says, are you a Vulcan, Data? He goes, no, sir, I'm an android. Almost as bad. They're damn annoying, those Vulcans. He's really carried this through, over centuries. And then he says, but the ship's got a good name, treat her well, and she'll always bring you home, except when they don't.
He still has the old-fashioned boot pants and the boots there, tucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. So he's he's here for the commencement. I'm really curious as to what was McCoy up for all these years. This is because we last see him in Star Trek The Undiscovered Country, right? And that's in like 2291 or something. So this is like 70 years later. What's he been doing for 70 years?
And all he wanted to do then was retire.
Yeah. But he apparently got to Admiral, right? Well, so he did something. I don't know if he's like a medical admiral or he's just an admiral, but anyway, he's here. And this is the, DeForest Kelley kind of, this is the only appearance in the series, and it's I guess just a connection to the old show. Then I guess we see the Enterprise kind of departing here with the Hood, presumably taking McCoy and others away. And while Picard's all excited to send a little message to Captain DeSoto, Q appears on the screen, and Worf tries to blow a hole in the view screen, which Picard's not impressed with as well. Picard's very unimpressed with all these guys, largely, except for Riker, maybe. And coming on, I love how he says to Worf, he's like, "What are you gonna do? A hole in the view screen?" He's like, "I'll try to do better." He's like, "I know you will. We got a long voyage ahead of us. We got a long time to screw up here." So what's next after? Okay, so we go to the ready room. Riker explaining the things on Farpoint, how things are just appearing, how they have all this stuff that doesn't make sense. We get to see Captain Picard's fish tank for the first time.
So I feel like he saw it for the first time too there.
Yeah.
Like he's just going over, oh, what's this?
I have a fish. When did I get this? Okay, then there's this whole moment here with Riker and Troy where she's talking to him telepathically. He's like, "Hello, Imzadi. Do you remember me?" And this scene is basically very much mimicked from Star Trek the Motion Picture, where you have Decker and Ilya, and they basically recreated those characters here with Riker and Troy. And it's all kind of playing out again, but obviously those characters, Riker and Troy, become more after this. But this is kind of their starting point. That they used to be in love, and then they had to stop and go with their careers or whatever. And I think Picard says, "Do you guys know each other?" They go, "Yes, sir." He's like, "Great. People who know each other work well together."
I love he has no other questions at all. He's not like, "Oh, how do you know each other? What's going on?"
He doesn't want to know. He knows, but he doesn't want to know.
He knows, but he doesn't want to know. Exactly. So then the three of them beam down to Farpoint together. They meet with this bandy guy. He has a real fun name in this episode.
Groppler Zorn.
Groppler Zorn. It's like a great name. What's up, Groppler Zorn? Man, the thunderstorm outside is really building up. So anyway, this Groppler Zorn guy says, "Well, if you won't play with us, we can make a deal with the Ferengi instead." So the first mention of the Ferengi, we see Troy is feeling the emotions, the powerful emotions.
Then look again. Oh,
Yeah.
that pain.
Pain, despair, loneliness, all these things. What do you know about this Groppler Zorn? Nothing. I don't know shit. This isn't gonna be anything. So anyway, Picard's just like, "Well, we're leaving. We're not dealing with you. If you want a deal, you should start answering our questions." Basically. Back on the and there's this whole scene here where Riker says, "Hey, can you help me find data?" This to this ensign. She's like, "You never been on one of these Galaxy class before. You just have to tell it what you ask what you want, and they will like point you."
I cannot believe he wouldn't know that.
It seems like he should know this, but I don't know. It's just meant to be a cool feature that the Enterprise is no normal starship. It's even for people in Starfleet. This is a whole new ball game. They have little indicator balls that point you to the right person, right? So he starts going.
Did you see that look? She's checking him out.
Yeah,
she is.
Oh yeah.
Well, don't worry, you'll get your chance, ensign. So then we get this first time Riker going on the holodeck, and how cool was this? I think like maybe one of my favorite parts for a long time of this pilot was just like this idea of the holodeck being introduced and becoming part of the show. Like, does the holodeck have its problems? We'll find out. Yes. In terms of it becoming like a crutch for some of the writers at times, but this was a really cool, imaginative technology. I thought, something very different.
But again, when you think of the long-term voyages of space, and this is fantastic.
Makes complete sense. Yeah. It's, but this was like, I think them showing like, hey, Star Trek, the original series never had something like this in their ideas, right? Riker going along, he's going through the steps, and then he finds, Data whistling. He can't, pop goes the weasel, but he can't quite get it. This is a great scene. Of course, it will be referenced later in Star Trek Nemesis. you know, where they're meeting each other for the first time. Riker's like, well, you're not really a lieutenant commander, right? Like, and he goes, yeah, I am. I went to Starfleet Academy and everything. He's like, well, that's weird. How can I be working for a machine? And he's like, prejudice is very human. Well, that does surprise me. Do you think you're superior? He goes, yep, I am in many ways. You know, he's just.
But I'd give it all up
to be human. And he goes to Pinocchio.
This is a good scene, Dave. I like this scene. It really sets these two up. Again, the only thing that bothers me is that Data would be world renowned or galaxy renowned if he had the only one who went to Starfleet Academy. So it shouldn't be a surprise.
It shouldn't be a surprise, but apparently it is. You know, that's what we're told. And I like this scene feels like a DC Fontana scene. It does not feel like a Gene Roddenberry scene at all. It's too good in those aspects, right? You know, and Data demonstrates the holodeck. You know, has got the walls that will shake here, and then I guess Wesley shows up. You know, being Wesley in his big sweaters. He falls in the water. Data pulls him out of the water. And then he's like, they come dripping off the holodeck. And I guess Picard doesn't know who he is at this point. Doesn't know that he's Jack Crusher's son, his old friend Jack.
Yeah.
The half brother of his future son, also named Jack. And then, oh, look who's here. He's made it.
Sorry, guys. I totally forgot about this.
Well, we're just getting into the second half, so.
Okay. Well, I've made it to the second half at least.
Yeah. Well, welcome, Jody.
Sorry about that.
We're at the scene here with Dr. Crusher and Wesley talking about Captain Picard. He said, Captain Picard is kind of grumpy, and he goes, "Are you afraid of Captain Picard?" I love how she says, "Certainly not." I am not intimidated by Captain Picard.
No doctors are afraid of the captain. Haven't we figured this out by now?
Except Bashir and Sisko.
Yeah.
Well, Sisko wasn't a doctor, though.
Bashir is the doctor.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then down to Farpoint Station where Riker and his, he has an away team. They're trying to investigate what's going on here at Farpoint. He's got Tasha Yar, he's got Jody, and, Data and Troy. And then Troy wants to go with him, I guess to talk to him. And he was like, nope, Troy's not coming with me. I'm going with Data. Troy, you go with somebody else. So Jane pointed that out. He's mean to Troy in that moment. I go, oh, never picked up on that, but you're right. So then they're kind of crawling through the corridors here, investigating things. I don't know. I want to yada some of this stuff because I think it's kind of more of the boring aspect for me.
Oh, there she is feeling it again.
She's feeling it, guys.
It's all her character could do for the first 2 seasons.
She does more than Tasha Yar does in this episode.
That's true.
Yeah. So yeah, they even beam Riker and Data over to Troy at one point. Like this, I guess the idea maybe seems a little strange for Star Trek just to beam someone from point A to point B, but they'll keep doing it. These are not 10s. They're not bad.
I would agree.
Well, we'll see. We'll see when we get to the ratings.
Mm-hmm.
Then what comes up to this? Okay, back to the ship. Picard. Oh yeah, this is the whole scene here with Picard, and then Crusher comes to the bridge, and Wesley is not technically on the bridge. He's still in the turbo lift, so he hasn't broken Captain Picard's rule about not going in onto the bridge.
Why is there a boy on my bridge?
Why is there a boy on my bridge? But he's like, this is Jack. This is Wesley Crusher. You remember you met him when you had to tell him Jack was dead? Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I guess I could allow a little.
He seems a bit taller now.
I could allow a little tour here. So, he lets Wesley go around here, look around. This is hilarious. I love how Picard's like, want to sit in a chair? Want to have a seat?
This entire scene doesn't make any sense to me because we know he has contempt for kids for the most part, or at least he feels awkward around them.
Sure.
And then he's like, oh, okay, no, just come on in and, sit in the big chair and, all that. You want to look around? It's like,
yeah, I think they're trying to establish a sense of responsibility he had with Jack Crusher, but they didn't go anywhere with it.
No,
for
that's
a few
the thing.
seasons, right?
They hit it on the 3rd, 4th season. They hit it again, but it's just, I don't know.
Oh yeah, you were watching Will Wheaton and Stand By Me last night on Hold Up, weren't you? Adam?
Yeah, we all discussed that Will Wheaton was actually better in Stand By Me than he was in this first episode
I agree with you.
as a younger kid.
As a younger
Hold
actor,
up,
yeah.
Hold Up was fantastic yesterday. If anybody hasn't seen it,
Thank you. Yeah,
I gotta go back and I gotta get to the Sandlot section of the episode still. Anyway, so there's a proximity alert. Right while Wesley's in the chair, and then he gets mad at Wesley, and Crusher's like, "My son was trying to tell you that something's happening." Because then we see this other ship approaches. What is this? And it's the Sindarian ship. We'll find out that this is sort of the mate.
It's another saucer section, Dave.
It's not a saucer section. It's not another saucer section.
everybody has a ship with a saucer section. Come on.
It looks like a big flying saucer, but and I guess that's what it is. But it's 12 times the size of the Enterprise or something. Like we find out, it's massive. So I don't know. They're trying to figure out what this is about. They try to hail it. They can't. They call the Bandy and go, "Hey, what's this about?" He goes, "I don't know." He never knows anything. They're always denying things. And
that guy is probably the worst part of this entire episode.
What this guy?
Yeah,
Groppler Zorn.
Groppler Zorn.
Yeah, he's just
he's pretty forgettable. To be honest, he's not cute.
Forgettable isn't the word.
Because but anyways, they get scanned by that Sindarian, and then while Riker and his team are down the planet, they're like, "Our communication is getting blocked." Oh wait, I'm sensing something. Troy says. Then I think that the Sindarian ship starts firing at the surface, right? And they don't know what the hell's going on.
At the Bandy City, not the.
Oh, at the Bandy City, not at the station.
Out of the station.
Yeah. They beam up. Riker and Data go off separately from Troy and Yar and Jody, who beamed up, and come to the ship. And Q shows up. In the mix. I don't know. I'm kind of yada-yadaing some of this, guys, but
a lot of it is just kind of repeat.
Yeah, but he's also trying to goad him into firing him on the saucer.
Yeah,
right.
He's trying to get him to engage it, but
he doesn't want him to win, right?
Right. The classic Picard. He's like, I'm curious before judging anything. I want to know more.
So we we see Q appears in the midst of all this, and he's like, the test continues, and my favorite line here from Q ever maybe be this.
Tempo, mo capita. I'm merely trying to assist a pitiful species.
He's like, every time Q comes into this episode, it's amazing. Not so much when Groppler Zorn comes in, but it all really works here. Sorry, my screenshots in there because I kind of pulled out, but we're almost at the end of the episode in terms of plot. What am I missing here, guys?
I think the big reveal here is that Groppler Zorn and his Gropplers have been basically captured this space, whatever it is, this life form, and made it create the station.
Groppler Zorn and his Gropplers. That's my new favorite line. So yeah, we see that the Bandy come up. I think this is the first time we see Q actually put the Starfleet uniform on as the captain.
Yes.
At one point comes up here, which he'll of course do pretty much every time he comes after this. And
I really like this when Picard's figuring it out and Q is behind him, being like, "Oh, this is too easy. Oh, I'm so disappointed that you."
Now I'm gonna have to throw the Borg at you.
But you know what? What was great about this again? It's classic John Delancey playing Q. How close he gets to Picard. He's whispering in his ears.
Yes.
Oh yeah, he's looking creepy.
It is creepy, but it's also him. That's what he is. Every time he's
an interstellar
right in his
stalker.
face.
That's what he is.
Didn't he get in bed with him one time too, just to get
Yes.
He did. Yeah. So yeah, John Delancey at this point would have been 40 or 39, I guess, and
Really? Wow.
and Patrick Stewart is 47 at this point. But they I don't know, they just feel older and more like, I don't know, something else here at this point. And so we see the reveal of the jellyfish by the first Sindarian ship. They realize it's a life form, not just a ship. Groppler Zorn.
Well, he already knew it.
He already kind of knew, but he wasn't copping to it.
No.
I'm only jumping a few seconds at a time here. We see that the other ship on the surface, what we thought was Farpoint Station, wasn't. And it eventually rises. Oh yeah, Picard says, "You were using a life form as a ship in order to get stuff from us, weren't you, Groppler Zorn?" And it rises from the surface up to the sky, which is kind of a cool visual.
And you can tell that it's their mates because one is blue and one is pink.
One is pink. Yes, that's right. And then they
touch tentacles.
They touch tentacles. How beautiful!
I can't believe they did that on network television. It's crazy. Scandalous. Scandalous.
Crazy. Look at it. Look at how intersected they are. Wow.
That's docking if you ever saw it, right? So
whoa. You're taking this to another area.
And
we never PG rating.
We never see these things again or this life form again, but this is the end of it. They kind of float away. Oh, they're home. Gratitude. They're so happy. You know? And they all got to watch it happen here.
I'm glad they made her less absurd as the
they went on.
God, the first season is brutal with her.
She's just an emotion detector for some of this early stuff, but you know.
Yeah.
And Q says, "Well, we'll see about the trial. The trial continues," and he kind of flashes out here. And then there's sort of the final thing, and that the final moment here in the episode where Riker says, "I wonder if all of our missions will be like this," and Picard says, "No, I bet they'll be way more exciting than this." I was like, they'll be better than Groppler Zorn. He's right about that.
He is very right about that.
Yeah,
that ain't hard.
And he does his final thing, like, let's see what's out there. Engage. He says the engage line for the first time, and we see the Enterprise warp off into the distance. And that is the episode, and as much as it has its flaws, it's kind of like, I think that the part that Gene wrote is mostly sucks. And I'm kind of like attributing DC Fontana must have wrote the good parts and Gene Roddenberry wrote the bad parts, but it's probably more complicated than that. But
I can 100% tell you that all Deanna's lines were written by Roddenberry for sure.
Yeah, they're not. Well, DC Fontana wouldn't give her those lines.
No,
so,
no, not at all.
Yeah,
and that's the problem with this episode, because it's an episode that establishes so much in the episode. Like we know a lot now of the new series, right? Which is obviously it's a new series when this aired, right? So it's nice for that, but there's just so much in it as well. Like it's just, I don't know.
It's not perfect, but it's
not terrible. It's certainly not a terrible first episode. But
I think it's considering everything that is, you can see the flaws and things like that, but if you compare it to even shows like Deep Space Nine and Voyager, maybe even Enterprise, or even the original series.
DS9's first episode, in my opinion, was actually pretty boring, but there were some good spots in it, but
there's some good moments in it. But I agree with you. It's kind of a little bit.
It's very.
I think the Voyager premiere is pretty good.
Voyager's not bad. I think Enterprise's premiere was fantastic. It was a good episode.
Enterprise is good. Enterprise is a good start for that show too. I agree.
And obviously, Strange New Worlds was good.
But this, it certainly could have been a tighter story. They could have had a few things, but the fact that they have all this amazing cast, I think.
And when did this air? This was what,
1987.
87. So, when you think about it, 87. This is spot on for what 87's sci-fi television was. This is not going against the grain at all.
Yeah, I was saying there wasn't a lot of TV to watch back then. It was a lot of sitcoms.
Tons of sitcoms back then, yeah.
Well, what was the most recent sci-fi show at that time before this? Like Battlestar Galactica or something?
No, that was too early. You'd have to go back and figure it out.
Alien Nation, maybe?
I'm asking you guys because you're older and you can probably remember.
I see how it is. All right.
But no, Alienation didn't come out till the 90s.
Oh no, that's right. It did come out in the 90s.
Right. So really it was just Star Trek, probably original series and reruns, and maybe Battlestar.
The whole idea is that, we watched Wrath of Khan thousands of times every night it was on TV.
Right. And this is right after Star Trek, the Voyage Home, the one with the whales. This would have been the next year. So there would have been a lot of goodwill for Star Trek at this point, I think.
Yeah, at this point, I think people would be excited for it. So it's certainly probably.
But you hear about how hard the cast had it, how much they felt like they were hated, after this premiere, after the first season.
Yeah.
that they said they could never replicate what the original series did. Patrick Stewart didn't unpack his suitcase for 6 weeks because he was sure he was getting fired and the show would be canceled, and I think that there's reasons it wasn't. I think that there's stuff in this pilot that really I think registered with enough fans that it was able to kind of stay on life support.
I think this show is now considered the standard bearer, like even over original series. This is the show that people really think about
now. Yes, but but in that first year or two, it was they seemed like they were.
And when you get our kids to now watch original series versus next gen, they get bored. Next gen.
Like, do you find? Well, yeah, like my son doesn't really ever want to watch it. I don't know why. But...
William likes the original series
more than he likes next gen.
He's not a big fan. It's boring.
Is it because
he likes the original series more?
Is it because there's carpet on the walls?
No, he likes it because he likes that campy kind of stuff, right? Like he's more of a fan of the era that Star Trek was made rather than the show itself.
Right. He likes
so
the
he's
60s.
Not a fan of drywall, gray paint, and extension.
No.
Okay.
Right. Well,
and no windows.
That cage.
No windows.
That orange cage.
Adam, are you queued up for fun facts?
I sure am, Dave.
All right. Well,
he's always ready.
You are, and Jody, the
fun facts with Adam.
All right, let's go. So this marks the final television appearance of DeForest Kelley before his death on June 11th, 1999, discounting the DS9 Trials and Tribulations, which is archive footage. He filmed this scene on June 2nd, 1987. His cameo came as an Age McCoy was a late addition to the script and was devised by Gene Roddenberry. It came about as a result, I think, of a meeting between him and that's what they call him, remembered producer Robert Justman. I think it was on Gene's mind, and he invited DeForest Kelley to lunch, and he asked, how would you feel about it? And he expected him to say no, but he said, I'd be honored. And not only that, I'd be honored, but he refused to take any more than the Screen Actors Guild scale. He could have held us up for a lot of money, and he didn't. And it was great. It really got to me the way he did that scene. It was a beautiful, beautiful scene. It was good.
Well, I think the scene is pretty good.
But it's okay.
Yeah.
I was questioning why it's there though. Like,
it
why
seems like
is
it's
the
kind
boy
of
on the ship? Did they explain that? Did I miss that?
He was doing an inspection or something, I think they said.
Yeah, it's kind of a not real reason.
Okay.
It would have been better if they put a scene with him and like Crusher, for instance, like he's checking out her sick bay or something like that. But
yeah, apparently they tried to get Nimoy, but they couldn't come to terms, and that was that. So
Nimoy probably wanted too much money at that point.
Yeah,
dude was making mad bank then.
Yeah, you're coming out of movies now. It's a different scale.
A movie that he was very predominant in. So.
I don't think it wouldn't have been better for me if it had been Leonard Nimoy.
No,
I think
it wouldn't have.
Maybe Shatner, but
the best one's still obviously Scotty. Anyway, that's a good episode.
Yeah. Okay, at Farpoint, Dr. Crusher decides to purchase a bolt of fabric and asks the bandy to charge it to her account on the Enterprise, making this one of the very, very rare references to any sort of money used in the Federation.
Charge it to my account, but I won't pay the bill.
The problem is you can't, if you're a society that is cashless and, you do everything for, the spirit of doing it. When you go to another civilization that doesn't do that, you still have to have some sort of currency.
Exactly.
That's the only way to do it.
But do you? You could look at that fabric and be like, oh, I like that fabric. I'm going to replicate that fabric when I get back to the ship.
So to replicate it, though, they have to have an original.
No, they don't. They can just tell it what they want. They do that all the time.
I guess technically, yeah.
if you can tell it what the molecular structure of it is, but
well, there you go. Yeah. I don't know. It's the first episode.
You just tell it to make it out of cotton. It already knows the molecular structure for cotton.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay, so apparently at some point in this mission, Geordi LaForge told Jody.
Awesome.
Which the humorless Data did not get until years later when he activated his motion chip during Generations.
Oh, yes.
David, that was not funny.
Not the right scene, but yeah, same idea.
Will Wheaton noted that during the filming, most of the cast didn't believe the series would last more than a year. And to Dave's point, Patrick Stewart even admitted that he didn't even bother to unpack his suitcase for the first few months.
Yeah, so sure.
Well, I think if I was him, I would definitely be thinking the same thing. Like it's a hard order to fill, you know.
Yeah. All the scenes involving Q were filmed during the last 2 weeks of the 4-week production schedule. Since John Delancey was involved in the theatrical play, he could only be available from mid-June onwards. But they were really keen on having him play their part and were really willing to adjust the role to accommodate the actor. And I think that was a fantastic decision.
One of the best decisions they probably ever made.
I got a question here. Speaking of fabrics, what does Dave think of the uniforms in season 1? Well, I would recommend you
do that. All right.
I would recommend you go check out our uniform ranking convention where we talked about it. But they're not they look uncomfortable. They're sweaty. They apparently smelled, and I don't like them as much as what comes after season 3 onward. But they're not my least favorite uniforms either. Like they're sort of B tier, C tier, something like that. Is that your rating on the uniforms, Davin, or is that your rating on this episode?
I'd imagine the episode.
Anyway, so not a 10?
No, he already told you it wasn't going to be a 10.
It's not going to be a 10. Yeah.
All right.
Gene Roddenberry's original scripts did not include any scenes of the Enterprise's engine room. But this is the kind of guy that he was. When he learned that Paramount was therefore refusing to pay to build an engine room, he revised the scripts to include an engine room.
It's one way to do it.
I think that the Q thing did come out of a time requirement, but there isn't any question in my mind. It was the best thing that we did was in the show was this Q story. It had only been part of the other story, it would have been a disappointment. The other thing that came out of Farpoint is a vision that Roddenberry had, where we have Picard arguing for the future of mankind, representing the advocate of humanity to this put to Q. That's extraordinary. A philosophically ambitious idea, and it really helps define what Star Trek is. Without that, there would have been spaceships, monsters, and special effects.
If you take Q out of this episode, it really is not as good.
Yeah.
It's like it would be.
Q is really the highlight of the episode.
Yeah. The final scene is the only time Tasha Yar can be seen wearing the skirt-style uniform.
Right. She looks better in the pants, quite frankly.
Yeah. The main engineering set, as I said, was built as a last-minute idea. Hence is why it only appears twice, despite nothing of note taking place in it.
Yeah, we just see them like using like the elevators or whatever, going up and down or stuff like that.
The Battle Bridge was originally built as the U.S.S. Enterprise Bridge for the motion picture in 1979.
Oh, really?
Well,
it does definitely got that vibe. Dark and
Davin says there might not be a 10 this whole season, guys. Wow, Davin, you're harsh on season 1.
He's probably not wrong though.
We'll see.
Except for conspiracy, that is amazing.
Well, it's his ratings, so I guess he can. If he's decreeing he won't give it a 10, then that's fine.
Veteran actor, British actor Patrick Stewart was far from the producer's first choice for the role of Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Despite having such a prestigious career at the Royal Shakespeare Company, Stewart was very much a stage actor, with some UK television, with only a handful of film appearances, but mostly in the UK. Very lesser known in the US. However, he was impressed with the auditions for the role, despite the producers think that a 46-year-old was far too old and too bald for the role. Even then,
he's only 46, not even 47.
Yeah, I guess when he was
auditioning.
Yeah. He wasn't the first choice and started packing to fly home. However, Rick Berman called. After a week of auditions, the decision had to be made, and it became clear that despite some reservations, Picard was easily the best actor, and everybody unanimously agreed to give it to him.
Because I always heard like James Earl Jones was being considered or something, and like some weird other. But I don't think he would have accepted the role. But
running. One of the reservations was that he was bald, and that wasn't how Paramount envisioned the character. So he was sent to robot. He was sent to wardrobe and had to try on some wigs. However, Burnham required that Gene Roddenberry looked at the test photos and said he looked ridiculous and said just let him have a middle-aged bald guy.
Yeah. Well, imagine him and Shatner trying to rock toupee battle.
Well, have you ever seen the picture of him in the test?
Oh yeah,
no. It's brutal. Yeah, I'll see if I can.
Like
find it.
Patrick Stewart's got one of those bald heads where you're like, that's a good looking bald head. Like that's there's nothing wrong with that bald head. Some people aren't as good with the bald.
This is the first time the saucer separation sequence is used and does not get separated again until the Arsenal of Freedom in 1988.
So the following season.
Actually, I think it's the same season, if I remember.
The Arsenal of Freedom. Oh, you're right. It is season 1.
That's a good episode. I like
that episode. Yeah.
Why did they separate it in that one? I can't remember.
That's when they had it's that.
It's the planet that. It's the salesman.
Oh,
yeah, but they're the arms dealers.
Yeah,
that's right. Not even a 10. Oh, he was conspiracy's good. Oh, now he's considering.
I love conspiracy. It's so bad, it's good. I love it.
Counselor Troy does not wear a Starfleet uniform again until Chain of Command Part 1,
which is not until like season 6 or 5,
wow.
Right? Like. It's like that's 5 seasons where she never wears it again.
Sorry, there's one exception of Future Imperfect in 1990, but set in an alternate reality.
Future Imperfect. Well, yeah, that wasn't even an alternate. It was just a holodeck program, but created by that kid.
Yeah. Originally, Gene Roddenberry assigned the pilot script to be solely written by Fontana. At the time, however, there was an ongoing debate between Paramount and Roddenberry over how long the first episode should run, 1 hour, 90 minutes, with a 30-minute history of the franchise prequel, or a full 2 hours. After Fontana turned in her final draft, Roddenberry informed her that he needed to rewrite the script as Paramount had mandated he rewrite the pilot, an allegation he later denied.
He made it up.
Mm-hmm.
He was a scumbag boss.
DC Fontana to make it better.
Yeah. Or her to get more credit as like the creator of the show or something like that.
Roddenberry then added the scenes involving Q over Fontana's objections and proceeded to pass it off as his script.
So Q is Roddenberry's creation, not hers.
I guess so. Fontana filed a grievance and was awarded credit with both Roddenberry and herself.
But apparently Roddenberry never forgave her. He was pissed at her after that. But it's okay.
Once again, here talking about the casting of Patrick Stewart. Roddenberry wanted a younger-looking North American actor to play the captain and was holding out for another actor who had been auditioned. He was overruled by the producers, who felt that Roddenberry was essentially looking for a new William Shatner type. However, once the series started filming, Roddenberry watched the dailies and changed his mind. Michael Piller liked the story structure of the episode involving Riker, Crusher, and LaForge later in the episode so much that when writing Emissary in 1993, he chose to introduce Jadzia Dax and then Julian Bashir later in the episode in a similar way. One of the tricks I learned from Encounter at Farpoint was that they didn't introduce everybody until 2 or 3 acts in.
That was a trick? That seems like...
Yeah, because we don't even see Riker until the second act.
Yeah.
So
I think
guess that makes sense.
Weird. It feels weird when you watch it that he's not there for a good amount of time. Not including Jody and others.
One thing I've always wondered is why were they allowed to leave space dock without a first officer? Because you have to have somebody that is supposed to.
He was going to show up on Tuesday, if you remember.
He gets installed on Tuesday.
Installed on Tuesday.
It's like phase cannons, Jody. Why would you leave?
Hey, sometimes you got to leave to drop off a Klingon somewhere.
The episode marks the first time the saucer separation ever seen on screen, while the Enterprise D separated 3 more times, at least on screen. Arsenal of Freedom, The Best of Both Worlds, and In Generations.
It's only 3 in the entire 179 episodes.
And this is the only time the reconnection process was ever seen in Trek. Thank goodness.
Wow.
Yeah, it was boring.
Yep.
It was supposed to show how competent Riker was, I guess, but it.
Yeah, we were talking about that. So,
that's about would have been like 5 years old.
sorry, guys. I'm just looking for one thing here about the way they wanted to use the storyline in the beginning here. Okay. Fontana's first story, meeting at Farpoint, had several different storylines and names. The Enterprise D had just completed a successful mission. The captain was Julian Picard instead of John Luke. First officer was Kyle Summers, and the security chief was Masha Hernandez instead of Tashiar. Summers was promoted to captain, was to take over his new command of the science vessel Starseeker at Farpoint Station. While in orbit at Farpoint Station, the crew transfers come over, including Lieutenant Commander William Riker, Lieutenant Commander Data, and Dr. Beverly Crusher, and her 15-year-old daughter, Leslie.
Oh, imagine if Wesley was a girl.
Was Leslie? Yeah.
Oh, that would have been better.
Riker and Data share a deep friendship. Following the transfer, an alien vessel appeared near the planet and sent a message for all personnel had to beam down to the planet or all would die.
I just read that. Sorry.
The T in William T. Riker is Tuesday. William Tuesday Riker.
Well done.
The captain of the Starseeker is firing proton torpedoes at the vessel, resulting in the destruction of the Starseeker. At Picard's orders, the crew of the Enterprise D is beamed down to the surface and made to contact their enemy. The Anoi, an ape-like species with high technology. The Anoi enslave the captain and the crew and to make them mine minerals. An away team, including Data, Troy, Hernandez, get aboard the Anoi ship with the help of Leslie Crusher's knowledge about the ship's layout. Troy learned there's no engineering room, about just a ship. The ship is a life form. The life form was enslaved by the Anoi and needs the mineral to survive.
That sounds better.
Yeah.
At least to me. I would have liked that.
Yeah.
Maybe we wouldn't have had that stupid long-haired hippie guy.
Grobbler Zorn.
Yes.
The name's Grobbler Zorn. Remember it.
I don't care.
That's
I've seen this episode 1,000 times and I still don't remember that, so I don't care.
All right, Adam, how about one more fun fact?
Sure, we'll wrap it up here.
Final fun fact with Adam.
There's so many,
I know.
Yeah. When Troy and Riker meet for the first time on the bridge after years of not seeing each other, Troy speaks to Riker telepathically. It is not confirmed whether Riker can hear her, and this type of communication is never seen between the two again.
I always assumed he could hear her. Like it's some kind of like Betazoid sex thing, and he's got her in the head, right? Like, am I wrong?
Yeah. That's what I always assumed.
Yeah.
I thought they had some kind of connection where he could definitely hear her, but
yeah.
Well, the first thing she says to him is something that is in her head. Like it's not something that she says outright. And he reacts to it. So he obviously can hear it.
He seems to react to it, but he might just be like, look at you looking all sexy. I don't know. It is a bit ambiguous, but
I don't know. I wouldn't want my ex hanging around with me.
Yeah, exactly. He's trying to impress his captain, and I think that's what's going on there.
Yeah.
But all in all, I think it was a great start. Looking back, I didn't enjoy it in 1987, but I enjoy it now a lot more.
Yeah, me too.
I remember enjoying it when I saw it, but I was also.
I think I enjoyed it more now.
I was 10 years old when this came out.
I ever have before today, or this, I guess, recently, and I was watching this with Jane, and I was like, well, this is kind of weird, or this is kind of not so great. And she's like, you shut up about this. This is amazing. And you will.
We should get Jane's ratings in here because I'm sure she's going to watch them with you.
Well, Jane, she is going to be, I think, is she on the next panel? She's coming up soon. But yeah, we're going to come in here. So Davin's giving this a 6 out of 10, guys. So I feel like it's better than that for me. I'm going 9s.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't think I'd go that high. I think Davin's being a little too hard on it, but you're definitely giving it way too much praise. I'm gonna go with a 7. A 7 for the first part, and a 6.5 on the second part.
Okay. Adam?
Are we considering the trial being the first part?
The trials, yeah, in part 1.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm going 9 and 8.
9 and 8. Okay.
I think that stage, that cute introduction, that scene was great, and the back half of the show wasn't as good.
And I'll go 7.5 across the board. It's
7.5.
It's good enough. It's a good start for a reboot.
Yeah, I think it's, I would watch this again. Like, it's not. There's nothing about this. I
don't
many times.
Yeah, when I'm doing my rewatch, I don't skip it. So
Norman's saying 4.7 out of 10. Is that a 47 reference?
Nasty.
The whole time on the bridge, waiting to encounter the aliens, Troy and Riker and Brain are like Cyclops and Clone Gene. I guess so.
I think World Mind's been drinking.
Part 1, 6 out of 10. Part 2, 4.7. Okay. Right on. Okay, guys. Well, the next episode is The Naked Now. And we're going to talk all about that. So on the next panel, we have myself, Jane, my dad, and Adam.
Oh, man, that's going to be great. I can't wait to see your dad's reaction to that.
I was going to bring my dad in for this one because The Naked Now is kind of like a remake of the Naked Time.
What was his rating on The Naked Time?
Well, good question. I can probably, if you give me a second, I can find that out.
Yeah.
My dad's rating on The Naked Time was 5.9. So he didn't really like The Naked Time.
What did I rate it?
You rated it 5.5.
Right.
So yeah.
That's the way we did in the 60s.
We didn't know, guys.
Murphy says sevens for both.
Yeah, exactly. I gave The Naked Time 8.5. Oh, Murphy's saying 7s for tonight. Yep. Okay, I will throw that in there. I have to create a column, I think, from Murphy still. So I will do that.
I don't know who Jim the Casual is, but he's 5 out of 10.
I think that you got to remember, this is like the kickoff of Next Gen, right? You got to give a lot of credit.
It was the 80s. We didn't know.
I honestly feel like without this show, Star Trek would have died. This show.
I completely agree with you, Kevin.
Yeah.
Completely agree. And they were up against a lot. They were up against the movie franchise, which was doing fantastic at that point.
Oh yeah, it was almost at its it's some would say it might even be at its peak, but I wouldn't say that. But
no wonder they were nervous about this show lasting, because it had some pretty big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, this is okay. Oh, we knew. What did he say? We were just on space cocaine. Right. Well, there you go. So, looking forward to talking about this
powder.
The Naked Now will be next Tuesday. We'll be talking about that. But before that, Jody, we're starting up a new podcast on Monday. What's that about?
Indeed. That is about. It's the first podcast that we featured on the Live Long and Podcast channel that isn't Star Trek. Well, it's almost Star Trek.
It's close enough.
Which is the Orville, which will be starting on Monday, June the 3rd, I believe, is the first episode we're going to do. Actually, this entire panel should be there.
Yep.
So,
and the first
show. And Murphy's going to be
This is the show. Same group, basically.
Same group, basically.
Oh, and Murphy, yeah.
Murphy will be coming in. So the first 2 episodes called Old Wounds.
Old Wounds, yes.
And I think the first emusode's maybe my least favorite episode of the whole show. So
you know what though? It's not a bad episode. I just watched it the other day and I was like, wow, this is
it's not
much
bad,
better than I.
Some of the jokes I think are like whatever.
Oh, it's very immature, I guess is a good way.
I find what I like about it.
Yeah. Well, that's Kevin for you.
Well, and the Orville goes from immature to pretty serious, within 2 seasons, but it still has the humor, which is nice. Yeah. So,
well, also want to mention
as many dick jokes.
So check out the Orville starting next Monday. We'll be doing every Tuesday Star Trek: The Next Generation, and look out soon. We're going to be doing a first contact interview with a guy named Dayton Ward on June 16th. He's he's an author, but he's from like Star Trek the magazine, the Star Trek Communicator. He's written different novels and things. So Davin's going to be having a conversation with him very soon, June 16th. Look out for that. And
I know the name, funny enough.
There you go. And for that, guys, we'll sign off for tonight. You'll get to hear about our other shows, the United Federation of Podcasts. But we have a new special here to show you that all up. But with that in mind, we'll play you out with a sound clip, and we'll say live long in podcasts. See you all next time.
Well, it's a new ship, but she's got the right name. Now, you remember that, you hear? Yes, sir. You treat her like a lady. She'll always bring you home.
Or not. Yeah. If Troy's piloting the thing.
See you next time, everybody. Good night.
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, did you see this one? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mater Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.